Some say there are four types of people. 1. Those who were born with no money and could not even manage the little they had. 2. Those who were born with no money but learned to manage it wisely. 3. Those who were born with money but have no knowledge on how to use it wisely. And 4. Those who were born with a lot of money and managed it wisely. I think many people would love to be in the fourth type of person. At first glance, it seems the easiest way. Moreover, these people keep getting richer and richer, creating a wider gap between the poor and wealthy, which is increasingly getting bigger. Just think about this. The richest 1% in the United States controls more than a third of the total wealth of the country. Someone would call it injustice, someone would call it meritocracy, but for many people, this is simply called an inequality. The rich get richer, and the poor get poorer. This gap has more than doubled from 1982 to 2016. Leaving the remaining 99% unsatisfied and full of resentment. But why does this happen? Well, if you listen to the media, they've already given you an answer. 1. They were born into a wealthy family. 2. They won the lottery or sued someone, thus gaining millions. Or 3. They were just lucky, being in the right place at the right time. According to them, these guys and gals were just born in a rich house, where the sun always shines, and the garden is filled with fluffy unicorns flying around. But are you satisfied with this answer? Well, if you're like me, then probably not. Because if you're watching our videos, that means you want to go deeper. The truth is that money is never still. It hardly stays in the same place for a long time. Money is energy and movement, just like water that flows in a river. Remember this example, because you'll hear it a lot over this video. If there are 100 bowls at the end of a river, logic would say that water pours equally into them. But when it's about money, you already know the truth. There's a single bowl that gets as much water as the other 99 put together. What's the secret of that bowl? Is it magic? Is it a magnet for money? Well, kind of. Stick around to discover the reason why that bowl gets so much water, aka why money seems to always flow to the rich. But before we go on, do me a huge favor and kindly give this video a thumbs up. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm and promoting this video. If you did, thank you so much. And now let's continue. So, let's find out the 3 most important rules of how money flows. It is good to desire an equal society, where everyone has the same equal opportunity and nothing could be better. But we know the truth, and achieving a perfectly equal society, as great as it sounds, is usually a far-fetched pipe dream. You've probably heard of the 80-20 rule. If not, don't worry. Here's the important takeaway. Simply put, it states that 20% of the effort is responsible for 80% of the success. Take a business, for example. Sometimes, the 80% of the sales and income comes from 20% of the best clients. The same happens with your daily life. You probably know a lot of people that you may call friends, but the truth is that you spend 80% of your time with only 20% of your friends. And our society has worked the same way for centuries. From the Egyptians to us, a single bunch of people has always kept the majority of the wealth, while the other big part worked to death for it. Whether it's building a pyramid for a pharaoh or working in someone else's firm. Do you think this isn't fair? Well, it highly depends on your way of seeing the world. Maybe you say the solution for a perfect and equal society is to close the gap between the rich and the poor. In this case, let's go back to the 80-20 principle. An economist in the 1800s said, "Let's divide the world's wealth into equal parts and give it to all the people in the world. See that in a short amount of time, it will turn in the same hands as before." And that's true. Let's say we give $10,000 to 1,000 people. Thanks to this law, we can approximately predict that we'll be in that situation in 1 year. Now, prepare, because this data is something astonishing. Statistics say that 800 people out of the initial 1,000 will ultimately remain with, you guessed it, $0. It means that 80% will lose the entire amount of the $10,000 in just 1 year. 16% will break even, with an average of $10,300. And now, the juicy part. The remaining 4% of the people will remain with more than $100,000 each. On top of that, 20% of this 4%, which is the 0.8% of the initial 1,000 people, will have more than $1 million each. This is astonishing. This hypothesis is not far distant from reality. It's essentially what happens in our everyday world. The young 20-year-old Mark Zuckerberg and some friends started Facebook with $1,000 in a dorm room. A few months later, they hit 1 million users on their site. Larry Page and his partner Sergey Brin started Google in a garage. They built their first PC with old components and Lego bricks. We all know the story. After 6 years, the company was worth more than $25 billion. After 2 more years, it was worth $127 billion. This leads us to the first truth of why rich people keep getting richer. Rich people have realized that money always flows. It doesn't matter where you start or with how much money. All that matters is where you want to arrive. The first important rule is fundamental to destroy your prejudices and biases. But now, we have to take a step further. There's this famous game that you can find on Instagram and around the web. The game consists of a system of communicating bowls. They're all connected. Water is poured into them, and you have to guess which bowl will fill up first. How can a silly game teach us something about how money works? Because this essentially is what rich people do. They spend time understanding how money flows and which is the best path to take. Remember the example of the 100 bowls in the river? Rich people have realized that water flows in different ways. They study where to best place their bowls to get most of the water. Poor people don't even know that. They just throw their bowl in the river, hoping they'll get something out of it. But it doesn't work like that. Here are some practical ways rich people do that. 1. Rich people save time. To concentrate their effort on best positioning their bowls in the river, rich people have to get rid of time-consuming activities. Gardening, housekeeping, grocery shopping. Why do you think rich people hire housekeepers and gardeners to do these chores? These activities have to be done, sure, but they don't produce any money. Rich people can hire people and delegate these jobs. This gives them more time. They use it in more productive activities. They make more money and they get richer. Time is money, and rich people have understood it perfectly. 2. Rich people have more assets that work for them. Even with all the time in the world, it's hard for one person to do all the work. Rich people invest in assets and they put them at work. This can be considered as an extra bowl to put in the river of money. The stock market, real estate, index funds, these are all assets that rich people use to get richer. These income-producing assets will help them generate more cash flow and improve their own net worth. 3. Rich people invest in information. To make wise moves with money, or placing your bowl in the right spot of the river, you'll need the right theory. Rich people know information and education is their best investment. Poor people are afraid to invest money in that. They think it's just wasted money that won't produce any tangible result. Well, that's because they don't know how to use that information. You don't even need to spend thousands of dollars on courses. Most of that can also be found for free on the internet. Rich people have found ways and patterns to best use the information they have. The more information, the more money they make. The more opportunities to find new information through new connections, the richer they get, and so on. These 3 examples of things rich people do. 1. Saving time. 2. Investing in assets. 3. Investing in education. Make the second truth out of the 3 of today's video. The second truth is, rich people study and understand how money flows. All we have just stated would be useless without the last truth about money. And to introduce it, we'll use the words of a man that knew a thing or two on how to correctly place the bowl in the river. If you study or watch Warren Buffett's videos, you've probably heard him saying something like, be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful. This is the last step. Maybe you've done everything great in preparation, but if you don't act at the right time, it'll cost you everything. Back in 2006, 2 years before the world economic crisis of the real estate market, everyone was having a great time. They were all making money and things couldn't be better. However, they were greedy with no reserve, and this was their Achilles heel. In the meanwhile, a bunch of outsiders, like the famous investor Michael Burry, were wise enough to be fearful. They knew something bad was about to happen, and they got ready for it. Going back to our example of the river and the shiny bowls, it's like you know that a drought's about to happen, so you decide to look for another river, while all the others are acting like everything will be fine forever. In 2008, when the bubble of the estate market popped, guess what all the greedy guys did? They became fearful. They freaked out. They started withdrawing all the money from the banks. They tried to save that money because they were afraid of losing their jobs. But they ultimately lost their jobs. And the sad part is, they were left with no savings. Do you know what people like Michael Burry did? They went from fearful to greedy. They didn't withdraw anything. They were prepared for the drought to come. They started to reallocate their funds to invest into more equities because they were now practically on sale. They knew that the drought would not have lasted forever. When the water would return, they would be years ahead of where they were originally. They were fearful while others were greedy, and they were greedy while others were fearful. Just like Patrick Bet-David said in his recent book, people who know how to play 5 moves ahead are the ones who succeed. Rich people see great opportunities, and they're not afraid to chase them. The third and last truth about how rich people get richer is this one. Rich people always choose the right timing. Hopefully, this gives you a different perspective in understanding how rich people look at money and why it always flows to them. The fact that 1% of the world population holds almost as much as the remaining part is not just a lucky coincidence. There's always something hidden behind it. So remember that when you'll have to put your bowl in the river. We hope these 3 truths we've listed today will help you find the right place for it. They are: 1. Money always flows. It doesn't care about your past. 2. Understanding how money works is the only winning move. 3. Being fearful and greedy at the right time is the ultimate step. And that's all for today. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think there are other reasons why rich people keep getting richer? But most importantly, do you think this is fair? If you guys would like a great course on the subject of money, check out Money EQ on Mindvalley by Ken Honda. I think you'll gain a lot of value from it. I'll leave a link in the description to the video, so check it out if you're interested. So I'd love to hear what you have to say. So feel free to leave your comments below. With that said, have a great day, you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.